One of the hardest kinds of grief isn't when someone dies. It's when they're still alive, but no longer part of your life. What happens when a sibling becomes a stranger? When a parent stops answering your messages? When a child no longer speaks to you? If any of this feels familiar, you're not alone. In fact, estrangement is far more common than many people realise. A 2025 YouGov poll found that 38% of American adults were estranged from a family member, most commonly a sibling, a parent, a child, a grandparent, and a grandchild. Today, I want to talk about one of the most misunderstood forms of grief, the grief that comes with estrangement. It's a grief that often goes unseen because the person you're mourning is still out there, living their life day after day. But the relationship you once had no longer exists. And even though that loss is as real as any other, society often doesn't know how to respond because it doesn't fit into our usual understanding of grief and loss. If someone dies, people send flowers, they attend the funeral, they acknowledge your loss, but there's no socially accepted way of mourning estrangement. Another reason the grief of estrangement hurts so deeply is because there's no clear ending. When someone dies, as devastating as it is, there is at least a kind of finality. With estrangement, the ending stays unfinished. Unlike death, estrangement can exist on a continuum. So for one person, it might mean having no contact at all, but for someone else, it might mean exchanging the occasional text message or seeing each other only at family events. Now, because every situation is different, it can be difficult for other people to understand the loss you're living with. And because there may not be a clear ending, you may find yourself caught somewhere between hope and acceptance. So you might wonder if they'll ever call again. You might imagine running into them in the supermarket. You may come across new photos of them on social media. That uncertainty can really complicate the grieving process. The psychologist Pauline Boss calls this ambiguous loss, a loss without closure. The person is still alive, but the relationship you once knew no longer exists. And while there's no quick fix for this kind of grief, or any kind of grief for that matter, there are things you can do to support yourself and begin to heal. So here are 8 ways to help you navigate the pain of estrangement. 1. Let go of other people's opinions. One of the hardest parts of estrangement is other people's opinions. Because estrangement doesn't fit neatly inside the grief box, people often don't know what to say and may fall back on familiar platitudes, some of which can feel deeply invalidating. Things like, you only get one family, life is too short, you'll regret it one day, just forgive them. And whilst these comments are usually well-intentioned, they often overlook the years of hurt that led to the distance. But more than that, they place responsibility on you to somehow make things right, regardless of whether reconciliation is possible or even the healthy thing to do. The reality is that every relationship is different and no one else has your memories or has lived your life. So while their intentions may be kind, don't feel that you need to accept other people's opinions or advice. 2. Give yourself permission to grieve. People may believe that if you've chosen to end a relationship, you shouldn't feel sad. Or that if someone has hurt you, you should simply stop loving them. But emotions don't work that way. You can miss someone every day while knowing that having them in your life would hurt you. Many people also feel guilty for mourning someone who hasn't died, but grief isn't reserved for death only. Estrangement is another form of loss. Often you're grieving not only the person, but the relationship you wish you'd had and all the what-ifs that keep playing over in your mind, including the conversations, apologies and future that never happened. So give yourself permission to feel sad without judging yourself for it. 3. Stop waiting for the perfect ending. Many people spend years hoping for a conversation that will magically fix everything. Maybe the other person will apologize. Maybe they'll finally understand. Maybe this time will be different. And sometimes people genuinely do change and relationships can be repaired. But lasting change only really happens when someone is willing to take an honest look at themselves, acknowledge the hurt they've caused, and to do all the hard work needed to rebuild trust. And unfortunately, that's not something you can control. So if your healing depends on another person's choices, you run the risk of becoming emotionally stuck. So it's important to recognize that your life can't remain on hold while you wait for someone else to change. That doesn't mean you stop caring. Healing often begins when we accept that closure may never come from the other person. 4. Create new traditions. Special occasions can be especially painful after estrangement. Birthdays, Christmas, Mother's Day, Father's Day. These moments often remind us of who is missing in our lives. So rather than focusing only on their absence, ask yourself, what new traditions could you create? Perhaps Christmas becomes a cozy day with close friends. Perhaps your birthday becomes a day dedicated to doing something that you love. Creating new traditions can help us remember that life can still hold meaning and bring us joy and connections. 5. Focus on the relationships you still have. Estrangement can make us focus so much on the relationship we've lost that we forget about the relationships we still have. Ask yourself, who listens to me without judgment? Who celebrates my success? Who is consistently there for me? Invest your energy in the people who invest their energy in you. 6. Look after your body, even when you don't feel like it. When we're grieving, it's easy to focus on our emotions, but grief doesn't just affect the mind, it affects the body too. So you might find it difficult to sleep. You may lose your appetite, or perhaps you find yourself comfort eating. These are all common responses to prolonged emotional stress. If you'd like to know more about the ways that grief can affect the body, click on the video link on the screen now. Now, while you might not feel like it, try to eat well. Aim for a consistent sleep routine and get plenty of rest. If you can, try to get outside for a walk. Fresh air, daylight, and gentle movement can be really calming. These things are essential for both your physical and emotional well-being. 7. Remember that healing doesn't always mean reconciliation. One of the biggest myths about estrangement is that healing must mean reconciliation. But reconciliation isn't always possible. Not every relationship can or should be repaired. Sometimes healing means accepting reality as it is and grieving the relationship instead of chasing it. Sometimes healing means choosing yourself after years of choosing everyone else. That isn't selfish, it's an act of self-respect. 8. Be kind to yourself. One of the hardest things about estrangement is the way it can turn us against ourselves, replaying conversations, questioning our decisions, and wondering if we could have done things differently. But healing begins when we start showing ourselves the same kindness that we'd offer to a close friend. Healing isn't a straight line. Some days you'll feel strong. Other days a photograph, song, or seeing another family spending time together may cause you to feel an intense wave of grief. But that doesn't mean you're going backwards. So instead of criticizing yourself for having a difficult day, ask yourself, what do you need? Whether that's writing a letter that you'll never send, a chat with a good friend, or simply having a good cry.